Chris, you know, we're here today, and we saw the shooting. We did the demo with the glove and all that, and you said you wanted to try the glove, and it's pouring down rain, so we're here in this classroom because you want to feel this thing.
I'm wet. I got full conductivity.
Okay, yeah. So we have a saying, "Feeling is believing." So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use one glove. We're not going to use any combatives.
Okay.
All I want you to do is feel the glove for what the glove is. So I'm not going to do anything, right? And as soon as I get the desired effect, I'm going to release and just let you do what you want to do. For sake of our study, I want you to try to resist and hold on and just kind of take it. So what we do with the glove, we simply are just touching skin. So the optics on this, if it's skin tight clothing and it's wet, it can do some conductivity. You'll feel it.
Okay.
If you had a thick jacket on right now, you wouldn't be able to feel it. It does not normally go through clothing, hair, metal, or fur.
Okay.
It only works on human skin. We achieve neuroperipheral interference by hitting the epidermis. We stimulate the epidermis, send signals to the central nervous system, and we're going to do that with a 3.7 volt lithium-ion battery.
3.7 volts.
3.7 volts, and we use magnetics and step-up transformers to give a little bit of an oomph.
To help.
Right.
How many volts?
So the max that could go is 380. What you're going to feel is somewhere around 320.
Okay.
And you're going to be feeling less than half an amp. Okay. It's going to be less than half an amp.
Okay.
And so it's very non-lethal. If someone has a defibrillator, pacemaker, epilepsy, or neurological issues, we cannot affect it.
Gotcha.
If I grab you, 5 other officers can grab you as well.
Yeah.
That's why I'm only going to use one glove, because I'm going to grab you. Let me just show you something real quick. I say, sir, come along with me. I get you into an escort position. Most people will start reacting in first contact, right?
Okay.
So this is where we start getting that resistance. We just transfer down. So let's say you resist a little bit. I say on the
holy shit!
Chihuahua's got some bite,
holy shit!
So before, and that is with
golly.
No combatives. When did we punch, spray, shoot?
Yeah.
And we showed today, we demonstrated today, we can shoot with a glove, do immediate action reloads, grab every tool in our arsenal. I've just stopped anybody from grabbing anything off my, you want to take anything off my belt?
No, I was going to say is, I don't have a gun, so I can't shoot you, but I might punch you for doing that.
In real life, as an officer, I'm not going to let go.
Right.
And I'm going to stay with you and continue to manipulate you. A level 2 application with these gloves is 2 gloves, 15 seconds.
Golly.
I don't normally need that time. 95% of the time, we're done in less than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
You're not going to want to fight. I had a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm going to punch you." Oh, I say, "Come on." I say, "Come on, let's do it."
Good luck with that.
I've had a couple guys when I say, let's go around. I say,
what the heck just happened, Jeff?
well, Chris, you just experienced what's called the glove, and we achieved neuroperipheral interference with you. When I grabbed you with the glove on your skin, send signals to your brain pretty rapidly through your peripheral and central nervous system, kind of hitting your OODA loop. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I'm 55, and you're a few years older than I am, and we've already experienced the glove at our age.
We're old and fragile.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But that glove wasn't no fun.
No, it's a love-hate thing, brother. And we say feeling is believing.
Yeah, feeling is definite believing. Eric?
Look, that's a Chihuahua with a dadgum bulldog bite, no doubt. No doubt. It is for real. I knew that it did something, but I had no idea of just what it did. And when you hit me earlier, buddy, I tell you, you can make anybody comply with what you want with that. It stimulated for me. It stimulated the arm here where you grabbed me, and it caused my hand to roll a little bit. And I don't know what you experienced when it happened with you. But I
don't remember. We're going to have to go to the instant replay.
I'm trying to remember because it was all like blanked out because I was wanting to get up out of the chair.
Right.
And
because you were being told to get out of the chair.
Exactly.
Right? You didn't want to get out of the chair.
Right.
You got out of the chair.
Right. I got out of the chair. And
so you was talking when you should have been listening.
Holy cow. I'm telling you. Wonderful product. I mean, I think that there's a ton of applications for this out there. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is your company, Jeff, but our good friend Gerald here, former law enforcement, he's actually got, bad pun, hands-on experience.
Yeah.
Tell us your experience, Gerald, on the law enforcement side.
On the law enforcement side, the agency that I work for, we began using these in court services just as a way of not giving an optic of literally pulling a taser and tasing someone inside a courtroom. We wanted something that would give us a very quick level of compliance without a very high level of optical violence. A lot of times in a courtroom setting, if you have to tase someone, it could lead to a lot of problems in the court proceedings, even a mistrial, because it shocks the court to see something like that.
Right.
With these, we had an incident with a guy who was undergoing a murder trial. Very bad dude, gangbanger, worst case scenario you could think of. He got up and started mouthing off at the judge, and I simply walked up to him. His forearm was exposed, and I just touched him I put my fingers on his forearm, just like what Jeff did with Chris here. And I told him he needed to sit down and calm down. And he turned to me, and before he could say no or anything else, I just placed my palm over his forearm. He sat right down, and we never heard another peep out of him the entire trial. And I just told him, sit down. This is your trial. You need to comply with the judge, with everyone here. These were so effective, the jury didn't even know what had just happened. All they know is that he stood up and I came over, and they believed, in their mind, what they saw was a very low impact situation. It looked as though I just said something to him and he sat down. They didn't know that I just, utilized a very good tool to get what we refer to in the law enforcement community as pain compliance. Very good tool. It was, I cannot say enough about it. I wish I'd had this earlier on in my career, and I probably wouldn't be as messed up physically as I am now. It is a tool unlike anything else on the market that I know of.
This episode of SDN is brought to you by Switch It Up, your national grid down service provider. Get a quote on a solar PV system with battery backup at switchitupinc.com or click the link in the video description below.
When we started doing research into it, we wanted something like the taser belt. We had seen them on things like court TV, stuff like this. We were tasked with finding something that was low impact, low vis that could get the job done. What we found with the belts is the older style belts. It's been a little while since I've messed with them, but the older style belts, if you didn't have it hooked up correctly, you weren't getting the effect, the desired effect. With these, it didn't matter. As long as I could touch their skin, I could touch them on top of their hand, and it would put them down.
Tell us about your personal experience with it when you went through it, when you had to go through your certification.
When we were going through certification with it, essentially it was like any other non-lethal weapon. You have to feel the effects of it to understand what you need to do in case you have to use it. It's like with pepper spray, tasers. A lot of agencies don't require people to get hit by a taser. My agency did. And I'm going to tell you, that is, if you've never been hit by a taser, that crap hurts. I don't care who you are, it hurts. This, going through the training, it was very interesting to me, because when we were using, soft hand techniques with mainly escort type techniques. And I noticed immediately that I did not have to use a lot of force to get someone to comply. And for me going through it, as soon as it hit me, I go ahead and tell you, I didn't know where to crap or go blind. It really interrupted my thought process.
Right. Hey, listen, 1989, Traders Village in Grand Prairie, Texas. The first time I seen the handheld tasers without the prongs, right? And 9-volt battery. And I was with a buddy of mine, and I said to the guy behind the counter, like, 9-volt battery. That thing can't do nothing. And my buddy had already tried it before. He said, "Well, you want to try it?" I said, "Hell yeah, I do." And I was 275, 280 at the time, and pretty much the same reaction as to what we just got out of the glove.
Right.
Yeah.
So we use magnetics and step-up transformer for with a 3.7 volt lithium-ion battery, with the charge lasting for months. Will stimulate for 2 hours,
Wow.
and you can charge it for 2,000 recharges. In other words, you can charge it every day for 5.5 years and not lick a beat or miss a beat. And so, you know, you mentioned a lot of tools in here. So really, for the first time in law enforcement and corrections history, we have a technology that most agencies put into area of soft, empty hand control. This is not a weapon. If you notice on the switch, when I have that on there and we light it up, this tool is now on. It says CD3. It's conductive distraction and de-escalation device. We use a small amount of current that you saw in the video.
That doesn't feel like a small amount
Yeah,
of current,
but it really is. It's,
No,
it's
seriously.
80% less current than any other device. And we have nothing against the other devices out there. We enhance the other devices. I challenge you to take any of those other tools out of my hand.
Sure.
I've eliminated weapons confusion with this. I challenge you to take anything off my utility belt or off my vest, or take the gloves off themselves. This allows people who are smaller in stature, maybe not as good with their combatives, maybe not as confident, and takes their game and lifts it up to where they're able to more confidently engage someone who's being combative or aggressive. We're in agencies right now where I'm being told morale is through the roof,
Wow.
retention is up, and we're saving about 40% in medical expense to both the officer, the subject / inmate, workers' compensation, and then lawsuits. You tried it. Do you have any kind of burns, marks, or scars on you? We just did this.
No, nothing at all. So it's funny you mentioned lawsuits because my brother-in-law's agency, their SOP for tasers is that the deputy sheriffs just take them out. They don't take them to the hospital and have a doctor do it. And so they had a guy last year, they took the taser prongs out. He got an infection and was just awarded $2 million.
Wow.
It wasn't as simple. You know, it wasn't a small infection. It was pretty bad, but still.
And here's what we have to remember. I have nothing against any of those tools because I think they all have a place. If a guy is standing over there with a machete or acting up, I'm not going to charge at you with the glove. Right. I'm going to use a distance tool.
Sure.
Right. That I have available to me. Hopefully a less lethal option before we have to go lethal. I have the ability to transition to any one of those tools with the glove on.
You know, Jeff, that's a good statement there because I saw you earlier with the gloves on, and you were able to pull your service pistol and fire at target, put your service pistol away. You were also able to change your magazine with these on.
With the gloves on,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
operational, right? I can drive my car, talk on the radio, pat you down, and handcuff you. Nothing with little nuance. And so one of the things that we wanted to do from the very beginning was we don't want this huge paradigm shift, right? An officer already knows their tactics, techniques, and procedures. We want to come in and enhance these things. With this tool, we enhance whatever tools they use, whatever tactics they use. This lays right on top of it. It doesn't replace it. I always tell guys, listen, if you're not going to fight Sasquatch, you're not going to fight Sasquatch just because you have a pair of gloves on. You're never going to fight outside of your own capability.
Right.
But what I can do with this tool is I can, one, create space, get Sasquatch off of me. If I had to close the deal, I could. I could wait till help arrives. Then we all get in. And 2 gloves, 15 seconds, anywhere on the body, avoid the groin
Can't
up.
imagine.
A level 3,
Can't imagine.
if you're trying to hurt me, I can use this glove anywhere on your body to include your face, to include the front of your chest, whatever's exposed skin, or make exposed skin just by manipulating your clothing. And I have no time limit on that.
15 seconds, 2 gloves.
Literally is an eternity.
Yeah, I can't imagine at all. So you started the company almost 10 years ago. Obviously, there was a whole R&D process to go through. But now that you have them out in various agencies, do you have an idea on how many times they've actually been used to subdue somebody?
Yeah. Well, this has been a 10-year project of mine. I had the easiest job in the world. I flew helicopters for 35 years. I flew EMS. I worked a week, then I had a week off. I had a week vacation every other week. And it was kind of like, what do I do with my time? I started working on this project. The initial technology was invented by a Shaolin monk. Started work with him and his guys, Zhang Jiang.
Just a quick timeout. He wasn't just a helicopter pilot. He was a Blackhawk helicopter pilot. 161 Night Stalkers.
Well,
Was
it's
in
160,
Mogadishu.
160th.
Well, yeah,
Night
but you're
Stalkers.
161 because it's 160 plus 1. You're just,
Well, I think they wanted 159. They wanted 160 minus 1. I think they. I don't know how I don't know how I got in that unit. And that's straight up truth. And the guys that I work with say, "Yeah, how did Niklaus get in there?"
And Jeff, I appreciate your service. Our company
Yes.
appreciates your service because what you did allowed all of us to be able to do what we're doing here.
100%.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's all about our country.
So Jeff was in Mogadishu flying a Blackhawk, in Somalia. Frontline guy. We do appreciate your service very much, and you're very humble. You don't have to be humble, when you have gloves like this. You can be as boastful as you want.
To God be the glory, brother. When I tell everybody, when I started this company, I was already outside of my pay grade, and everybody that knows me knows that I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I've got 3 degrees, and I got enough of 3 degrees to know that I'm not that smart.
I can tell you, with these gloves, you are definitely the hammer.
Well, yeah, I like that. I'm one of those tools anyway.
Yeah.
So all the encounters, what's the number and how many times they've been used?
So if you add training, demos, and real worlds, we're probably over 40,000 uses in 5 years. 15,
Injuries?
just doing no injuries, no lawsuits. Just doing the simple math, and I know that I'm underestimating these numbers. We're at 15,000 real world uses. No officer injury, no subject injury, no lawsuit. Now, because I said that, someone's going to try to figure out a way to take us to court. We know that it's going to happen someday.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I think our society is too litigious, and everybody's got our men and women in uniform under a microscope. They have a zero defect mentality, not realizing that these men and women are having to make a decision in a fraction of a second. That's not just affecting their lives, it's affecting the lives of their partner, innocent bystanders. They're trying to do what's right, and we've put them under a tremendous amount of pressure. I'm hoping that we can take that and change the optics, change the conversation, and be a positive influence for society. Yes. That's our goal. Our mission statement is this. We exist to benefit society by providing non-lethal alternatives to those who selflessly serve. And that's our goal. And I'll just reiterate what I said earlier today to the guys. I'm a big fan of the win-win. I'm also a big fan of the KISS principle. Is it impossible? I don't think it is, that we can have safer communities and streets, safer schools, safer hospitals, more orderly jails and prisons, but also protect our officers, our agency's reputation, and valuable taxpayer dollars. We're doing it to the tune of 40%.
Wow.
However, that officer, it's not just about you, it's about your family. It's about his future, his family, and his finances. Sure. You don't want to be that guy. If we have something that does not injure somebody, and I would say about 80 to 85% of the nonsense out there, we can help stop. Sure. We can help influence. And if we can do that in less than 3 seconds, nobody has time to get a video camera out. Nobody has time to make you look bad. And if you are looked at, what are they going to look at you? At what point, up to that time in that engagement, did you shoot, spray, hit, or anything?
Sure.
All I did was grab you with a pair of gloves.
Sure. And if any of those other things had happened, then you would see that in that video, that if you had to use other forces, the spraying or whatnot. I do have a question for you, and I think the community might like to know this as well. Do the gloves create any RF or any interference with radios when they're reaching for radios and things like that and communicating?
No. Actually, like I said earlier, you can talk on your radio and you can drive your car. But when you're talking about interference, what I want to point out is when I grab an individual or an officer grabs an individual with this glove, we're grabbing the skin and it stays on the surface of the skin. Sure. Other officers can grab you. The only person that feels this tool is a person being grabbed. So if you have a defibrillator, pacemaker, epilepsy, or a neurological issue, I'm not going to affect that.
Right.
And I think we went over that in your training, telling you some of the things we say avoid using this on small children, the severely handicapped, the elderly, pregnant women. And that's avoid. It's not impossible. Physiologically, they won't be hurt. The optics on it aren't good, and that's what we try
Right.
to, because we want low optics. We want to try to steer away from those things that could be perceived as
Yes.
unusual or
Sure.
outside of the
One
norm.
of the things that I can say with this is that a few years ago there were some studies done where it was shown that certain brands of OC spray were highly flammable, and there were instances across the country where someone was OC spray was deployed. It had minimal effect on the suspect, and then they hit them with a taser, and they literally lit this person on fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
They reproduced the scenario in a laboratory setting, and I think it was something like 7 out of 10 times that OC spray lit on fire just from the taser. I cannot see where this is going to generate enough heat or any kind of spark between the substrate and this to make that an issue. Is that something that y'all
Well, you know what? We've looked at that, and we still say in our manuals, don't operate near flammable subjects, regardless of the testing. Never know what could happen.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's no need to play with gasoline
Right.
with
Right.
these gloves on, right? So, and unfortunately, some of these tools, because they're a distance tool, and I would say this in defense of these other tools, the other option is lethal force.
Right.
Sure. Sure.
Now, some of these people may not have made it to it. Usually things that happen are a chain of events. It's normally not just one thing. So, we're not disparaging of any tool out there, but I do believe that we have a place in the use of force options that individuals have, as agencies have, in order to broaden the spectrum, because really up until now, between verbal command and soft empty hand control, to get to a technology, we had to go all the way up to intermediate tools. We now have a device. By the way, when that whole body hand sanitizer thing, at 6 o'clock in the morning, my wife sees me with a frying pan full of that stuff, because we have a gas stove, and I'm trying to light this frying. I don't have the stove on, but I have I have this hand sanitizer in there, and I'm trying to ionize with the gloves to spark it. I couldn't do it.
Wow.
We tried to light off gasoline spark rags. We don't generate the current levels necessary in order to create combustion.
Gotcha.
However, I couldn't sleep because I needed to know, because you know what? Up until that point, they might not have known either.
Exactly.
And it's just one of those things. Unfortunately, that was a hard lesson learned. But you know what? We're in a society where, why is the law enforcement guys blamed when this guy is totally out of control, totally on all kind of substances? And I can't explain that. I feel sorry for the guy. I don't know what he had going on, whether mentally or with substances, or what caused these types of addictions or these actions. The bottom line was he was a danger to himself and society, right?
Right.
And so at what point do we start putting the onus on the individual for their actions?
Right.
I think as a society, for tools like this, if you don't have a constitution, if you don't have a rule of law, my goodness, just throw it in the trash.
Right.
Because we're just going to further descend into chaos.
Right.
As a society, we need to start realizing that personal responsibility comes into play. As individuals, that's why we have the rule of law.
Right.
That's why nobody should be above the law. And that's why we have society, and you have to have some, people say you can't legislate morality. You do it every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that's why I think as a country, we do need to come together. I think this is a solution for a lot of stuff. And I think if we can get around the craziness, I think we can all agree our country's on fire right now.
Yeah.
If we can turn this corner, I really think we can do something good.
Well,
Sure.
a couple quick comments. My friend Todd Callender frequently says, he's an attorney, federal level attorney, that there is no rule of law without law enforcement.
That's right.
So that's a necessary component. The other thing is that there really is nothing else that compares this unless you're extremely skilled, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, close quarters combat, hand-to-hand combat, that close really. Because all the other tools that you've mentioned, they're all predicated on distance equals safety, right?
You can take the least trained martial artist or zero trained martial artist, and with this tool, with a little competency based on some level of training which they should receive in their academy or whatever, they should be a lot tougher force to deal with than without that glove on.
Yeah, I've heard you describe this as well as a TENS unit on steroids, and I've used TENS units, where you're hooking up electrodes to stimulate muscles and whatnot. And if somebody takes the TENS unit and turns it all the way up, it'll put you into it'll lock your muscles up. Yeah, this is like a TENS unit on steroids times 10.
Yeah, the great thing about this though is you're really not locked up. That neuroperipheral interference still allows you to listen to and obey commands. And because I'm close to you, everybody says, well, I've got to be on top of you. Ladies and gentlemen, if an officer is going to arrest you or bring you into compliance, you're going to be touched 100% of the time. And those out in the field know that.
Right.
So not everything is just so cut and dry. So, at the end of the day, based upon what you experienced today and your experience as an officer, are we better with it or without it?
We're far better with it. I see the application going far beyond just a courtroom, jail scenario, correction scenario. It is a very effective tool that could be utilized in so many different aspects.
Think of mental institutions,
yes,
where people are going to hurt
themselves. Well, we're already using behavioral health units in hospitals. We've actually had the CEOs of hospitals all the way down to the officer to the nurses asking to use our product.
So I didn't know
it's
that.
Already helping. Yeah,
I didn't know that. What I was thinking is, you have somebody who's mentally impaired and they're thrashing around, they're probably going to get hurt.
Right. Psychologists are actually loving this, what it does, because it is so safe and effective, and it's not harmful.
Yeah. So when we first met a little over a year ago, you mentioned a particular city, which, we won't get into the politics on this episode, that's Democrat controlled, and all the sheriff's offices on the periphery are, conservative, and that some of the people who came from that inner city to the suburbs to commit crimes, what was their reaction when they encountered the cops?
I don't know, but I think there's less people going from the inner city to some of those areas outside the city that cause trouble.
Good answer. My recollection was that you mentioned there have been some instances of guys, career criminals, when they got confronted by the SO, it was like, hey, man, don't put those gloves on.
Right.
Just put the cuffs on.
Well, hey, no, actually, you have some frequent flyers in jails. They saw that in the jail. They saw the cop was out in the street, and they said, whoa, wait a second. I didn't sign up for that. And everything just kind of, at the end of the day, it's a great, and the thing is, we all had a good old laugh, right?
Of course.
When we do this, that's the beauty of the tool, because we didn't have to give you any kind of medical treatment. We were able to discuss it. You were able to experience it the whole time without, you were able to listen to and obey commands and the whole 9 yards. And then we were able to get up and conduct this interview. And how do you feel right this second?
Well, I was going to say, there was a sensation here for maybe 10 minutes, and it wasn't anything debilitating, but the sensation went away. I have no marks on me. Where did he get you, Eric?
He got me here. I don't have any marks, and I'd like to contribute to this. Out there earlier with Surviving Man, you had a contestant say, I've seen this, seen some YouTube videos on it or something, and he just didn't believe what it could do. And I'm telling you guys, this is the real deal. This thing, I want to use the word hurt you, but it doesn't hurt you. But you will comply with this. It is absolutely the real deal. And if you see it on TV, this guy right here going down, and you hear that, oh, it's for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're not getting a copy of that, by the way.
He's just going to download it.
So he said he's going to make it his ringtone for
Yeah. Ow!
Hey, can I just chime in real quick?
100%.
We have known each other for about a year, and this is the first time during this episode that we met personally.
That's right.
I got to meet your beautiful bride, and it's been a real pleasure. But I want to thank you for Survival Dispatch and you educating the public in different survival situations and all that, and what it is you guys are doing with your technology with weapons to make them more controllable, more accurate, smoother operation, to make the tools that they have already in inventory that much more reliable. I'm honored to be able to work with the guys from U.S. Arms
Yes,
and
we appreciate
and
that.
you and all the people that come here. I've been blessed. I'm honored to be able to know and work with so many amazing and talented people that love this country, love the rule of law, and we have a brotherhood, which I think is really cool.
100%.
We really appreciate that, and we feel the same. We feel the same.
I'm not a masochist. There's a specific reason why I asked you to hit me with this. We don't recommend anything at Survival Dispatch unless we've put it through its paces. And I never had any doubts as to the efficacy of this product. I mean, I watched you take Sheriff Mark Lamb's son down, like a sack of potatoes, or your former CEO, who was a foot shorter than Mark's son.
Yeah.
And, so again, I had no reason to doubt the technology.
Oh, you mean Dan's our president? He's still out. He's still
Okay.
up and running. He's out there now, teaching people about that.
So point being is that we get asked questions by all walks of life. What do you recommend for a power station? What do you recommend, for guns? And we do a lot of work with law enforcement. Keith Graves, 30-year SWAT team leader, Bay Area, Alameda County, is a good friend of ours. Christian Warrior Training is one of his channels. He's on Survival Dispatch News all the time. He needs to feel this as well because he trains law enforcement every week across the entire country. More people need to know of this. And when somebody asks me now, I can say, yeah, not only is Jeff my friend, but his product is very unique and unbelievably effective.
It's the real deal.
Jeff, do you have this product inside the Georgia State Patrol?
Not the Georgia State Patrol. We just started a T&E with corrections.
We have an inlet with the Georgia State Patrol at the training center there in Forsyth. I would like to extend that to you. I'll call them guys and put you in touch with them. I think that this can go somewhere with them because they have a prison on site there.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, and we've been talking to those good folks out there.
Right.
And I normally don't mention the agencies that we have going on, but we actually have a lot of test and evaluations going on across
Sure.
the country and internationally.
Sure.
And with one of the bigger
Sure.
governmental agencies that was ever created.
And if you need a little help, we're a little tied in with the governor of Georgia as well. We were actually chosen to produce a firearm for a giveaway gun for them, and they're familiar with us and our products and things that we might endorse. So yeah, we'd love to help you with this.
Yeah, thank you.
So Jeff, I mean, you know me well enough by now that we can't do a video without me putting the tinfoil hat on and diving into at least one conspiracy theory, right? It's okay.
Unfortunately, I'm normally locked and loaded with all that kind of stuff.
It's okay.
I use it to get me off the soapbox.
Well, here's the deal, in my opinion. I think that police have been unjustly targeted since 2016, got worse in 2020, and there's morale's at an all-time low, staffing levels are at an all-time low. They've lowered the barrier to entry, so now we have Airborne cops. Of course, Florida thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's crazy, it happened here in Florida, and if there's any thanks to be given, it's that this has the opportunity to de-escalate all of those bad situations that have resulted in somebody being injured. There's the video that shows it, that's context is lost, and the cop's a bad guy because here's a career criminal who got hurt. This here just stops that dead in its tracks.
If you have someone on the other side of the aisle or any aisle that wants to demonize that product, I say first give me the scientific evidence that debunks what we say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a retired warrant officer, brother. My fun meter and BS meter about that far off the table, right?
Yep.
Our society's in a situation, we don't need gimmicks, we don't need snake oils, we don't need used cars. We need real solutions that are timely, safe, and effective. This is it. If you try to demonize this, you don't want our guys to succeed. And I will say this, our issue as a country has been infiltration and not invasion. Mm-hmm. We have been infiltrated from within to degrade our family, degrade our values as Christians 100%. And as churchgoers, our homes, our businesses, our benches. Everywhere you go, we've been infiltrated by people who are not loyal to this country. As far as I'm concerned, should be tried for treason. So I'm just going to leave it at that level. And
well, I'll finish my conspiracy theory. So the demonization of law enforcement Obama made no secret that he wanted a federal police force that was under his thumb, that he had control on. And we now have situations. So everybody at this table has experience with law enforcement officers who've been asked to do something immoral or unconstitutional, and the officer has said, no, I'm not going to do that, or yeah, sure, I'll get right on that. And it's essentially pseudo-policing, right? So it's non-conformity. So we now have illegal aliens, DACA people basically, that have been sworn in as LAPD officers and LASO, Sheriff's Office, sworn in as officers. And we all know that crazy stuff happens in California.
How can you swear to defend the Constitution if you're not a citizen of the country?
It's not a valid
It's
oath.
too stupid to be stupid. You have all these military-age fighting men crossing the border. There's their army.
Right.
But here's my point. So let's just use California as an example. So, and I'll use it because Keith Graves, friend of mine, 30-year law enforcement there, he's told me one story after another of the cop saying, no, we're not going to do that, whether it came from the immediate superior or all the way up to Gavin Newsom's level, okay? Yeah. So essentially by bringing in these undocumented people, whatever you want to call them, they're being told...
They're called now, they're newcomers.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We're not going to use that verbiage. But here's where I'm going with this. So we have lifelong law enforcement officers like Gerald, who, if his commanding officer or the governor of his state said, I want you to go do this thing that's unconstitutional, he's not going to do it. And so there's a compliancy issue, that's the word of the day apparently, between what Governor Newsom wants and what the traditional historical law enforcement officers are willing to do. So by bringing in people who are undocumented, number one, how did they pass the firearms course, and how come they have a firearm when it's against the law for somebody who's undocumented? You have to have a green card at the very least to have a gun or be a citizen. So the law's been broken there. But my point is this. So we take these undocumented people, illegal aliens, invaders, whatever you want to call them, and say, come work for us in law enforcement, and we will put you on the path to citizenship. You'll get your green card after the first couple of years. You get your citizenship a couple of years after that. Their loyalty is to Newsom and the rest of the clowns that work underneath them because they've got this carrot in front of them. So they don't care what your rights are as an American. They don't care. They don't subscribe to our Constitution. They have no respect for it whatsoever. And that's how you end up with a federal law enforcement agency. We're
the middle-aged neo-Nazis, right?
Right.
So who are the future brown shirts? The people they've indoctrinated and propagandized and coerced to come to meet their needs, to create havoc within society. And somehow it's got to end, or we're not going to have a country.
100%.
And you were talking about conspiracy theory. I usually vet things out in the Army. We talk about a thing called situational awareness. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is have a little critical thinking, put two and two together, use a little common sense, do some research, make your own decisions. You decide what's real and what isn't.
Good recipe for success.
Yeah. Okay. What's going on is too stupid to be stupid. These people are not dumb. They're calculating, and they're evil.
Very much so.
They're evil.
Yep.
They want to see the demise of our country because they've sworn to allegiance to something other than what we believe in, and we need to start standing up and at least being vocal about it.
So I won't take us too far down this rabbit hole. Just skim the surface. Yeah. So I mentioned Todd Callender earlier. So he's a very notorious federal level attorney. He's also the CEO of a global insurance company along the lines of Berkshire Hathaway. He's invested in multiple different things. And one of his researchers has discovered that well over 50% of public officials in this country do not have a valid oath of office. So, for example, Merrick Garland, his oath of office is not notarized. So he is not occupying that office legally. Mayorkas, born in Cuba, dual citizen, Israel and America, no oath of office. Maricopa County Board of Electors. Did you guys catch they had a meeting on the weekend? The meeting lasted all of 2 minutes because they were served, I think it's called a writ pro quo, to basically say, we FOIA'd the information. None of you have a valid oath of office. You are illegally occupying your position. They smacked the gavel, called it a meeting, and walked out. So you have to
serve those papers.
I'm not sure who served them in Arizona, but I do know that this is Todd Callender's. He's the one who lit the fire underneath of all of this, okay? So here's your conspiracy theory. Second conspiracy theory, federal police forces. Conspiracy theory number 1. Here's number 2. Why has there been such a concerted effort for public officials since Biden stole the 2020 election or Obama stole it for him to not have valid oaths of office? Well, you can't be charged for treason if you never legally occupied the position in the first place. So,
Well, but you look at what happened with the and all the other things with the pharmaceutical companies and all that. I think there's a thing called knowingly. You knowingly did something, whether you were sworn into that office or not. If you helped perpetrate the crime, just because you were sworn in or not, to me is irrelevant. Now, I don't know about the rule of law, but if you knowingly participated in these events, if you knowingly did some of these things that you know were against the American people, caused death, harm, destruction, whatever the case may be, you need to be held accountable. And at some point, the Auschwitz guards said, I just followed orders.
right.
Sorry, you're guilty.
Yeah. So, you know, hard to say exactly where that goes, but let's bring this back full circle to your product here, Jeff. This one product, in my estimation, has the ability to restore faith, excuse me, in our law enforcement officers, because there is no escalation. There is nobody saying, I can't breathe and dying from a fentanyl overdose. There is nobody saying, man, they hit me with a taser, I got a raging infection, give me $2 million. There is no footage of cops protecting their life in hand-to-hand combat and being seen hitting a career drug dealer, thug, or whatever because of this. So this one tool has the ability to restore confidence and faith in law enforcement because there's no injury.
Exactly. Confidence,
There's
that's the
no
word.
injury.
Confidence of an officer being able to do his job without the repercussions of today's society.
Right. Yeah. Just we can end on this. The camera footage was released of the shooter at Joel Osteen's church in Houston maybe a week ago or so. There were officers that were being recorded by other officers who said, I can't engage, my camera won't work. That's how crippled they are. That's how afraid they are, that they didn't want to engage the attacker without their camera functioning because...
That goes right along to what I said about zero defect mentality. And any time that you cause an officer to delay, how many people may have died or been shot because of their inability to act because of fear?
Uvalde.
Yeah.
To kind of build on that, when I started in law enforcement, there were no such thing as body cameras. We had in-car video, and that was about it. As time rocked on, and the body cameras came out, there were a lot of officers that were really against it because they didn't want to be recorded. However, guys like me, we saw it as just another tool to allow us to document what really happened. Because in a
it's not he said, she said anymore.
In a high stress situation, you can have 3 different people involved in the same incident. You ask all 3 people the same set of questions, you're going to get 3 different answers.
Absolutely.
The video doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And a lot of agencies across this country, and I actually saw it happen. I heard it with my own ears from certain people who were higher up in an agency I was involved with. If you got out of your car and your body cam was not turned on, you would be written up.
Right.
If you were involved in an incident and your body cam was not turned on, it doesn't matter if it went down.
This is my point, though, brother, and that is we've stopped being part of the solution, and now we have choked and frozen and hurt our guys. I think the body camera is a great tool, but I don't think it should be the sole source whether you're going to engage or not.
Absolutely.
It should not.
Absolutely.
There's things when you fly a helicopter that we can kind of like, a red X means this thing's grounded, we can't fly. There are certain things you can fly. It's called a circle red X. Right. Kind of keep an eye on it. Right. You can fly without it. And the thing is, an officer should still be able to use the presence of mind, do the right thing, and engage and do his duty. Because he should have the support of his chain of command. If it's political appointees and everything else, That's when you start getting into
Yes.
the danger.
What we've seen in the courtroom, especially, is even with body cam footage. Early on, the juries were kind of, they drawn back by the idea that the officer was wearing a body cam and all this is real time is happening. Now what we're seeing, especially in agencies that the public knows that they employ or deploy body cams on their officers, we're seeing prosecutors who will not take a case if there is no video footage of it.
Right.
That the days of law enforcement officers being above reproach and their testimony, their word being enough to prove the charge or to show the action occurred is gone in the eyes of the prosecutors. We no longer have in certain areas of the country, we no longer have law enforcement working with prosecutors. It's prosecutors working against law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely hate seeing that, because the men and women who do the job, they're scrutinized enough by the public. They don't need to be scrutinized by the people who are essentially hired, and they are hired. They're public service, just like law enforcement.
Right.
We enforce the law. If we make an arrest, it is their job to take what we produce them to determine if there is a case there or not. If we are trained well enough to determine if there's enough probable cause, which I'm not going to get into the semantics of all of that, but if there's enough to charge someone and a prosecutor decides they want to dismiss a case because there's no video footage of it, I have a huge, huge, huge problem with that, because then you're telling that officer your word no longer matters.
Yeah.
The irony of all of this is, in today's society, is if an officer doesn't act, he can be charged. If he does act and the result is not what people think that it should be, he can be charged. How can they win? How can they win?
Catch-22.
Well,
Somebody's probably going to put a comment down below. SCOTUS did make a decision years ago that says that law enforcement officers are not duty bound to protect you in your life.
You're exactly right.
So I'm just saying that because you're right in certain contexts and situations, but guaranteed somebody's going to take that knife out and put it in the comments.
Well, that goes right
it,
against God's given. That's God made men and women. Excuse me if you disagree. And that's why he made men as protectors, wanting to do the right thing. That's what puts it in the soul of a man to want to be in the military or be in law enforcement and serve others, right? Sure. You're not going to get rich doing this job. So when people sign up, it's just like this whole transgender stuff in the military, and our generals ought to be ashamed of themselves for perpetuating this. You've got a transgender Air Force officer speaking to people from a position of authority, should be tried for treason or at least mental illness. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'm sorry, I just totally disagree with that. They make the environment such that nobody wants to join.
Right.
Infiltration, not invasion. Mm-hmm. They've taken away the desire for good men and women to join our services, because who in their right mind wants to be part of that circus? Yeah. Right? No, this is purposeful. This is not accidental. Oh, this is not about growing as humans and doing all this other stuff.
It's
and
vilification.
DEI in the military is no place.
Right.
I agree.
All right. So, Eric, U.S. Arms Co., what's the website?
www.usarmsco.com.
Best ARs in the business, bar none. I can say that because we test a ton of products. By far highest quality ARs ever. And our good friend Gerald here just so happens to work with Eric at U.S. Arms Co.
Oh, yeah.
So appreciate your service in law enforcement, Gerald.
Yes,
Thank you very much. You. My good friend Jeff Niklaus, it's been so good meeting you in person. And
nice to meet you, man.
Very proud of you for creating this. This has the ability to change the trajectory of hate against law enforcement.
Absolutely.
And that makes it very special.
No pun intended. No pun intended.
No
hands down.
Hands down.
Hands down. That's right.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Thank you. We're at www.complianttechnologies.net. Email us at info@complianttechnologies.net. Thank you all. And God bless America, right?
Yeah. Amen. If you care about the well-being of your local law enforcement and sheriff's office, send them towards Jeff's company. This is a game changer in multiple different ways.
For real.
All right. As someone who's worked in law enforcement, like I say, my body would not be riddled with the pain that it is now had I had, this sort of technology to be able to control certain suspects.
Hey, well, this is kind of like a Tenzoon on steroids. You can probably use it for rehab or something.
I probably could, but I think
You want to start right now?
I tell you what, man,
He's already working towards getting to the police
That's a whole new
They
line of
have-
business.
they
Joe.
have-
We're gonna
They have.
All right. Appreciate y'all following Survival Dispatch. We'll catch you on the next one.
This video is sponsored by William Tell Archery Supplies, home of the Mini Striker crossbow. Click the link in the description below to learn more.